Okay, I'm going to show you how to do squares and square roots on all of the calculators I remember. So this is the first one, the main one, the one I asked you to have. Basically, what you are going to do is press your number. So if we wanted to do the square root of 4, we're going to press 4 and then the square root button. And that's pretty much it. Then for squaring a number, so if you wanted to do 4 squared, you would press 4 and then this little squared button. Or you could press the exponent button that I showed you yesterday as well. Here is the one that I am a little worried about. So if they give you a negative inside of parentheses, make sure you press your parentheses, your number, then the negative button, then your parentheses, and then finally the squared button. Just make sure you include those parentheses in there. So parentheses go first, then your number, then the exponent. If you did that all correctly, I want you to check along with me. You should get positive 16. And that's different than when there's a negative with no parentheses or a negative on the outside of the parentheses. All this is different than those two things. And I just want you to remember that. Okay, that's it for this calculator. You can message me any questions you have with it, or if certain things aren't working, just send me a picture of your calculator and I can help you. I'll have 2 more different types of calculators in just a second. Okay, here's the second type of calculator. We're going to go over how to do square roots. So if you saw square root of 4, you would press, looks like second, and then your exponent button like that, and then your 4. And that is pretty much it. So second, that button, and then the 4. Because if you see right above your x squared button, there's a little square root symbol. So that's what you would press there. To square a number, there's a couple things I want to go over. Let's see. 4 squared, you can do one of 2 things. You can do the exponents that I showed you in last week's video, or you can do 4. And then that is actually your squared button. It says x squared, or it'd be 4 squared. And that's how you do yours. Then the ones I'm worried about are when the negatives are introduced. So if you have a parenthesis on the outside, negative 4, and then a squared, you would do your parenthesis, negative 4, parenthesis, and then finally the squared button. That is different than when there are no parentheses, and you would get an entirely different answer if you forgot to put your parentheses in. So if you did this correctly, you would get 16. If you put in this correctly, you would get negative 16. And then finally, the other thing you might see is a negative on the outside of parentheses. You can put that in exactly how you see it. You can do the negative sign, then the parentheses, then the 4, then the parentheses, then the squared. And that will all get you the correct answer. This one should give you negative 16 as well. That is it for this calculator. If you have any questions, just send me a picture of the type of calculator you have and I can answer them. All right, this is the other calculator I remember seeing. So we're going to go over how to do square roots and squares in this calculator. So we're going to go over the first example you might see, which is the square root of 4. So you would press second, your exponent button, and then 4. If you did it correctly, you should get 2. And so that's how you press the little square root symbol in your calculator. To do squares, there's a couple things I want to go over just to make sure you get them right. If you have 4 squared, you would press 4 and then the squared button. If you had in parentheses negative 4 raised to the second power, then you're going to have to put those parentheses in your calculator. So let me just erase those things really quick. So basically you would put your parenthesis, the negative sign, the 4, the parenthesis, and then the squared symbol. Put it in exactly how you see it into your calculator. or you will get it wrong. If you followed directions correctly, you should have gotten positive 16 for that one. This is different when there's a negative on the outside of the parentheses. When you put that in your calculator, make sure you do it exactly how you see it. So kind of have to follow along with the order here a little bit. In this situation, the first thing that goes in your calculator is that negative sign, then the parenthesis, then the 4, then the parenthesis, and then the squared symbol. And you should get negative 16. Finally, you might see this, negative 4 squared with no parentheses. Don't put any parentheses if you don't see them, and if you put that correctly, you should get negative 16. So just make sure you put in everything exactly how you see it. Let me know if you have any questions about your calculator. Just send me a picture of it, and then I can answer your question.